And welcome back to Hannity. So earlier this week, Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson politicized the Orlando terror attack and said that stricter gun control is needed for all Americans. Really? Watch this.
Meaningful, responsible gun control is now part and parcel of Homeland Security. It's critical to public safety, but we have to face the fact that meaningful, responsible gun control has to be part of Homeland Security as well, given the prospect of homegrown, homeborn violent extremism in this country.
Wow. Use any crisis to advance an agenda. Joining us now, Texas Congressman Louie Gohmert, as well as former NYPD Detective Pat Bronson. Louie, this is the same DHS secretary that said right-wingers pose the same threat as radical Islamists. This is the same Department of Homeland Security that forbids the use of the term jihad and Sharia. I don't know why we're banning words. This is the same Department of Homeland Security that doesn't enforce immigration laws. This is the same Department of Security that said nothing when the United States has now resettled 750,000 migrants from countries that execute gays and lesbians. What is going on there? What's happening in Washington with this?
Well, we're all affected by the advice we get, the people we get advice from. And we know that at Homeland Security, a guy that the Muslim Brotherhood approved publication in Egypt back when Morsi was in charge, were bragging that 6 of their great Muslim brothers were top advisors in the Obama administration, and one of them was an advisor on the Homeland Security Advisory Board. I kept warning about, the guy had been a featured speaker proclaiming the Ayatollah Khomeini as a man of peace, the man for the 20th century. But anyway, there were all kinds of indications, and they would not listen.
Here's my question.
And finally, but they finally let him go when he tweeted out that the international caliphate is inevitable. You might as well get used to it. And now they got a guy on here who actually they got a girl that hates white men. She hates America. If you're patriotic, she makes clear America is nowhere near the best country in the world. And these are people, another guy that people warn the administration he's a Muslim brother, and they don't listen.
Pat, let me go to you from a law. This is a guy that admitted he wanted to be a martyr, claimed to be affiliated with Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah. Yeah. This is a guy that we're told, according to other students, that he cheered on 9/11. Yeah. If somebody says all of that and the FBI and Department of Homeland Security do an investigation, how does he slip through the cracks rather than blaming guns? Why don't they look at the system that allowed such a person to get off the watch list?
Well, a couple things, Sean. What happens is there's a few difficulties. Surveillances shouldn't end just because funds, the priorities come along. If he was identified as a likely jihadi, the surveillance has to be sustained. Find the funds, get the money to keep the surveillance going. Same thing happened with Karachi brothers in Paris and Tsarnaev brothers in Boston. The other thing is background checks don't happen in a vacuum. It's all about connecting the dots.
Right.
And the dots weren't connected here. His whole life, the dots weren't connected. Here you have a guy, how in God's name does someone on the terror watch list, someone on the no-fly list, 3 separate federal investigations, one that tied him to a bomber, get a full carry? It took me 17 months as a former detective to get a carry in Jersey.
It took me 3 years. Good luck.
It's out of hand.
Yeah.
But again, no common sense.
All right, let me go, Louie, back to you, because I want to know what Washington's doing about this. Because I had on this program one of the founding members of the Department of Homeland Security. His name is Sean Hannity. He's a whistleblower. He wrote a book. In his book, he talked about how when Obama became president, he was ordered to scrub the names of Muslims that had terror ties to terror organizations. So he was forced to do that, which prevents, as Pat is saying here, law enforcement from doing their job and connecting the dots to protect the American people. Was that ever investigated? Why would anybody scrub the names that law enforcement comes up with in something like that?
Well, no, not only would, and I've been helping Phil for years. He's an American hero, a patriot. and dedicated his life to trying to keep America safe. But not only would they not investigate that, once he came forward with the thousands of pages that actually a bunch of his leaders, his superiors had deleted, then they turned on him. They impaneled a grand jury to go after him. It just destroyed his career, his life, put his wife in the hospital. She's a PhD, brilliant woman. But they made his life, they take his gun away and of his peers, so the message is clear. You asked how these guys fall through the cracks. It's because they're not cracks. They're massive holes that are created by this administration. And like, for example, we got this document, the unclassified Secretary Joint Staff Action Directive, October 25th of 2011. This is where the military orders the purging of anybody, basically, that CARE and other co-conspirators named in the Holy Land Foundation trial were approving. Yeah. You couldn't use somebody that the Muslim Brotherhood didn't like, but you could use only the Muslim Brother approved people is what it came down to. And the military cleaned this up too. They won't let them learn what they're supposed to look for. That's why they don't know when they see it.
Unbelievable. Last word, Pat.
Sean, you know what'll move the ball down the right way for us, what'll move the ball down the court, is if we could just replace the words political correctness with common sense.
How about
if we could erase, absolutely.
How about truth?
And how about just erasing Islamophobia, which is paralyzing. It's informing these decisions. And at the root of it
we can't say jihad and Sharia because we don't want to offend people. All right, that's so over.